you enjoyed my preview of the NBA Central Division heading into this 2020-2021 season. What? What's that? You didn't watch it yet. Why? After you watch this, do it, and do it then, immediately. And then smash the subscribe button. Let me know, loud and proud, that you want more NBA content on this channel. That way it's not just NFL all the dang time. Anyways, this is the second installment of my division-by-division previews looking ahead to this 2020-2021 I keep almost saying NFL. So you got to get used to it. NBA season. Already took a look at the Central Division. Next up, I'm going to take a look at the Atlantic Division, which features realistically four playoff teams and the Knicks. Oh, the Knicks. The punching bag of the Atlantic Division. Arguably, you could say the punching bag of the Eastern Conference and maybe the punching bag of the NBA. And it's not always that every season they finish with the worst record. It's just the fact that they're in the biggest media market in the country, and they're the Knicks, and Dolan's a tool, and this organization, for the better part of the last 2 decades, has largely been a farce. A couple of pockets of hope here and there, but largely a farce, and that's a shame. And I don't see where it's going to get a lot better this season. They'll stink. Like everybody accepts that. They should be more exciting, though. You'd think that Julius Randle will get plenty of opportunities on this crappy team to put up some numbers. Could have a borderline 20-10 type of season. I would be surprised if he got there. Really, though, this is a huge year in the development of R.J. Barrett. You're going into year 2 now. Like, does he start to develop into the James Harden type of wing that some people envision with him coming out of Duke? Like, can he show that he could be a star, maybe superstar in the future? Because if he does, it certainly changes the outlook and trajectory of this Knicks organization over the next few years. If he shows himself more to be like a high-volume shooting scorer on a bad team, then you're just the Knicks, but you at least entertain some people that actually, whenever we're able to actually go to the arenas and go to Madison Square Garden. Because you're assuming at this point, I would think, right, that Kevin Knox is a bust. Have you really seen anything out of him to indicate that this guy's got it? You know, Mitchell Robinson, I would say, like, this is a big year. Can he take another step forward? Can he show that he could be a big part of the future? And then I would say, if nothing else, Obi Toppin is going to give you some excitement. He's going to have some spectacular offensive plays, some highlight reel dunks, and hell, you know the Knicks are going to be bad this year. They're a bad team, but to their defense, they're in a really loaded, tough division with 4 potential playoff teams. Like, it's a really bad spot for them to be in. At least, if anything else, maybe they'll be a little bit more entertaining for you Knicks fans this year. Maybe. I like to give Sixers fans a lot of crap because these are the same clowns a couple of years ago when this team traded up from 3-1 in the draft to go get Markelle Fultz. Man, they were running their mouths about trust the process and everything like that, and y'all got really quiet real quick, and all the while I'm enjoying the taste of those salty 76ers fan tears. And then seeing what happened in the bubble in the playoffs, y'all got embarrassed by Boston. You know, like, it's a transitional type of time. You can't just talk about the process anymore. You're in like year 8 now. That's done and over with. And you got to figure out, like, can you actually get into a spot where you can be a contending team with this core? And if not, what do you got to do to shake it up so you can be? You know, so I'm not surprised that they fired Brett Brown. You know, the hiring of Doc Rivers. You know, you can sit there and say Doc Rivers won a championship. Yeah, but he only won 1 championship with Pierce, Allen, and Garnett. And that was over a decade ago. We have a long, proud catalog of Doc Rivers coached teams underwhelming and underperforming, especially in the playoffs. So why would coming to Philly make any difference here? And then even with that, at the time of this recording, you know, there's been no big deals done, but who knows if Ben Simmons is on this team long term? Are they going to bring in a James Harden? Are they able to pull off a James Harden deal without having to get rid of a Ben Simmons? Lots to question there, but when you look at Ben Simmons and you look at Joel Embiid, like, part of the question for me with this team is not just a chemistry thing of whether these two guys can play together well. It's a pretty good defensive team. I'll give them that. But the ball movement isn't as crisp as it needs to be. Then you've always got the questions. If it seems like if Simmons isn't freaking hurt, it's Embiid's hurt, or if Embiid's not hurt, it's Simmons that's fucking hurt. Like your top two guys, you have some concerns when it comes to being able to stay consistently healthy and being able to count on them in big time. How good can this team actually be? They might be a little bit better without Al Horford there. I would not be surprised about that at all. I guess the best thing you do is get rid of his ass. But how many games are they going to get from Embiid? Are they going to have this core team together throughout the course of the season? What's Doc Rivers going to actually bring to the table? Like, admittedly, I could have went anywhere from second to fourth in this division with the 76ers. Because this Atlantic division, those top four teams are really tough, and you would anticipate all four of them return back to the playoffs this year. And that's not to mention the Nets getting Kevin Durant back. Maybe you'll get more than 20-something games out of Kyrie Irving. Who the hell knows? So, somebody's got to take a step back, or somebody's got to, just get past here a little bit. And I think it could be the Sixers. I still think they're a good team. I just wouldn't put them as a great team. When I look at some of the other teams in the division, I frankly just have more faith and more confidence in them. I think in the 72-game season, the Sixers might still win 40-plus games. But again, this is a real dogfight. You could potentially make an argument they're just as easily able to finish first in this division as they are fourth. The good thing about the Raptors, let's be clear here, they got one season out of Kawhi Leonard, load managed and everything, and they got a ring out of it. So everything that happened after that and happens after that is going to be gravy. Smooth, no lumps. You know what I mean? Like last year. They had a really good year, won over 50 games, won the division, made the playoffs. After losing Kawhi, that's not bad. You had Pascal Siakam certainly step up, as many people I think anticipated, and had himself a very nice year. You still had Kyle Lowry in the fold. Fred VanVleet had a nice year, but for this team, that was probably what you got last year without a Kawhi Leonard is about the best that you're going to get out of them. And I think largely, I would expect them to take a step back this year because you're talking about a team coming off of a playoff series where Pascal Siakam did not play well. So you wonder how much that might impact his confidence or harm him as you talk about his progression and going forward. You're also talking about Kyle Lowry as a guy that's 34 years of age now. Are you going to start to see some noticeable, perhaps rapid decline in his game? Fred VanVleet is a nice player, got his money, so that's great. You got him back in the fold, but you lose Ibaka, you lose Gasol in the offseason, and you can sit there and say, like, Anunoby and others, maybe they develop a little bit, but I look at this Raptors team and I say, this is a good team. They're well coached. They play hard, but they just don't have that true, unquestioned alpha dude that can make everything go for them when it really matters. In the regular season, it's a little bit similar. The way I see them now is a little bit similar. If you remember that 60-plus win Hawks team years back with Budenholzer as a coach, who'd you have on a team like Horford and Korver and Teague? You had multiple all-stars on that team. They played well in the regular season, but once they got into the playoffs and they faced a team with an alpha, they were screwed. I look at this team, and I think that's going to be a similar type of thing. I think they'll still win somewhere in the mid-40s in terms of games, but I think you'll see Pascal Siakam kind of level off this year compared to what he did last year. I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of growth there. I think Lowry potentially takes a little bit of a step back. And you did lose a couple of people off of this team. I don't think you made any real sizable improvements. So, again, in this tough division, in an overall improved Eastern Conference, I think the Raptors are more of a 45-win team as opposed to last year where they were pushing 55 wins. What I've said about the Raptors and the Sixers before is contingent upon the Nets living up to expectations. They can, but it's a big roll of a dice. There are a lot of questions here, starting off with their head coach. Going out and hiring Steve Nash may make some sense, talking about a Hall of Fame point guard so he can relate perhaps to a guy like Kyrie Irving. Has some working relationship was a time in the Warriors organization with a Kevin Durant. But you talk about a brand new head coach, inexperienced. You could be getting a Steve Kerr type. You could be getting somebody that totally washes out. A Jason Kidd type, dare I say. And then on top of that, you just look at this roster and you say, what's Durant going to be like coming off of the Achilles injury, especially over the course of a long season? You know, the history of guys coming back from Achilles injuries is not the best. Like, you can point to a Dominique Wilkins, but damn, that's almost 3 decades ago now. You got to come up with something a little bit more recent than that. There are some good stories, but lots of concerning ones where guys don't come back as the same type of player. And then you're also talking about beyond just the Kevin Durant situation, like even if he's healthy and he plays most of the season, the hell are you going to get out of Kyrie Irving? You know, not just mentally, like, is this dude all there sometimes? You want to sit there and look at him and say, what in the flat earth are you talking about? But beyond that, like, just from a durability standpoint, like, dude is a walking injury factory waiting to happen. You could call him Glass Irving for all I care, as he's fragile as hell. If you can get 55 or 60 games out of him in the regular season, you probably feel pretty good about your chances. But he gets a major injury and you're talking about he plays 30, maybe 35 games, you know, then I certainly don't envision the Nets being, you know, the first or second best team in this Atlantic division. I love the young core that they have with Dinwiddie and LeVert and Harris and Allen. I love the young core that they have around these guys. But they could end up depleting that young core if they end up pulling the trigger at some point in time during the year for James Harden. And maybe they're in a situation where they feel like they want to take the gamble and they want to take the chance. But man, oh man, you bring a James Harden into the mix with a Kyrie Irving and a Kevin Durant, I don't know how well that's going to work. I just don't. Because back in the day when Durant and Harden played together, Durant was the franchise guy. Harden was coming off the bench as a damn six man. You know what I mean? I think they'll get something out of Durant. They'll get more games out of Irving this year. That young core will play well. I think they'll respond well to Steve Nash's coaching. I don't know that they're the best team in the division. They could be. They might be. Again, though, I'm trying to hedge my bets a little bit because I don't know what's going to happen with this team from a durability standpoint, from an injury standpoint. So I think they could certainly crack 50 wins. And if they've got Kyrie and Durant healthy for most of the year, they probably win this division. I'm just having to hedge my bets here a little bit, though. I would call this version of the Boston Celtics always the bridesmaids, but never the brides. But they don't even get to the NBA Finals. Like, you feel like you're waiting forever for this team to take that next leap, to take that next step, to be able to get over the hump and get to where you feel like maybe they should be, which is get to the NBA Finals, potentially legitimately have a shot at winning a championship. And they just, the last several seasons, have not had enough to get there for one reason or another. So is this going to be the year that they stop, you know, not even getting invited to the wedding? I mean, maybe you say they get invited to the wedding because they make the playoffs, but they're never the bridesmaid, let alone the maid of honor, and they most certainly aren't the bride. You know, time will tell. I think there's a chance, though, that the loss of Gordon Hayward might work out to be a net positive. Because it feels like when Gordon Hayward was in there, they just weren't as effective. And if Gordon Hayward really meant that much to the Celtics, they would have kept him. I think for the purposes of allowing Kemba to fully be Kemba, allowing Jason Tatum to grow and potentially be your real franchise player, allowing Jaylen Brown to be Jaylen Brown, was more important than keeping another guy at $30 million a year like Gordon Hayward. It's amazing a dude got that much money from Charlotte. MJ! But you look at this team, though, and I question a little bit when you talk about down low in the post. Do they have enough size to be able to get to that next level? Do they have enough quality big men? But you look at Tease and Williams, like these guys played well, probably outside of themselves in the playoffs last year. They just didn't have enough, but this is a team during the regular season that rebounded pretty well. Like, it's more finer tune points and smaller things that the Celtics are missing that make all of the difference. And to me personally, the single biggest thing that this Celtics team needs is to identify and establish who their true alpha is going to be, and they need that person to be that person, not just necessarily during the regular season, but especially when it comes to the playoffs. To me, it feels like everybody needs to take a step back to let Jason Tatum be what he could truly be, because he could certainly be that. I don't think you get that out of Kemba. And even if you try to have Kemba do it, like, I don't think you're going to be unleashed at your best possible potential. I think there should be a bit of heat on Brad Stevens, frankly, and Danny Ainge. Like, I've defended Danny Ainge a little bit in the past and saying, hey, this guy's done what he could to compete, and he's done what he could to acquire pieces and keep the Celtics relatively relevant. But at some point in time, like, hey man, you gotta make it count. And if you're not winning championships, it doesn't count at the end of the day. And same thing for Brad Stevens. You can talk about his teams play well defensively. They're in the mix every year. Yeah, that's wonderful. But you want the damn Larry O'Brien trophy. You want a freaking ring. And if it's not this year, or even just a trip to the NBA Finals at this point, by God, that would be growth and progression. If it's not this year, when will it be? I think the Celtics, I'm playing it a little safe here, like I said, because the Nets, I feel like there's a lot of risk associated. I'm picking the Celtics to win this division. They could just as easily finish fourth. They could also really piece it together and, finish first and do it by a number of games. But I think they're like a 52 or so win team. They'll be good, and they'll be one of the contenders in the East come playoff time, but I still have serious questions about whether or not they truly have enough to get over the hump, get out of the Eastern Conference, and even potentially be a championship contender. And there you have it, my preview of the NBA's Atlantic Division. Let me know what you think about my predictions. Let me know what your predictions are. And again, as it seems to be so often, even more with basketball than football, feel free to flame away at me in the comments. Tell me how much I suck and how much I don't know about this stuff. That's cool. Whatever helps you get through your day. But make sure you smash that subscribe button and keep coming back, because I got a few more divisions to preview here ahead of this week's regular season start. So, yeah!